Our viewer Mason Keys left us with a challenge build to build a Armorer Artificer combined with a Forge Domain Cleric. Now both of these are known for their high AC and their ability to tank, but what happens when we combine the two? Well, we're going to explore that in this video. Let's do this. So when we combine these two subclasses, what do our stats look like? Well, to begin, we're going to need to have a solid wisdom, a secondary in intelligence, and our tertiary in constitution. As always, I love how the Armorer Artificer allows us to take really interesting stat arrays to do really unique builds. This is one such build. As for our lineage, many can work, but I've chosen to go with Goblin for this particular build. Why? Well, we get the bonus action Disengage, which is going to really enable a certain playstyle that I'm excited to explore with this build, but more on that later. As for our leveling structure, we're going to be going 3 levels into Armorer Artificer. We're then taking 6 levels into Forge Domain Cleric, and then we're going to go back into Armor for the rest of our career. These first 2 levels in Artificer are a tough time for us. That's because we haven't invested in Dexterity, so our AC is going to be particularly low, and we're going to be having Intelligence as our secondary, so even our cantrips aren't going to be as efficient as another Artificer's might have been. However, we do get some important things. The first is we get proficiency in Constitution saving throws, and we are going to be a concentration caster, so that's amazing for us. On top of that, we're also going to get the Absorb Element spell, which is going to round out Clerics and Artificers' weakness to Dexterity saving throws. I'm not saying it's going to take care of that weakness, but it does make that weakness a lot less scary for most of the creatures in the game. Additionally, we're picking up some important cantrips here. The first is going to be Booming Blade, which is going to be key for this build, as well as Firebolt. Clerics do not have ranged cantrips. Their furthest ranged cantrip is 60 feet, so this gives us a 120-foot option, which we're going to very much appreciate when we're trying to close the distance with our enemies. Now, our playstyle completely changes at level 3 because we become an armor. Now we can have heavy armor, and we don't need to have strength to use it, on top of being able to use intelligence for melee attacks. So we go from basically being a scaredy cat to being our team's frontliner. Additionally, we get the Thunder Gauntlets, which whenever we hit an enemy, they are going to have disadvantage on attacking anyone outside of us. So now we're tanking for our team. Now that brings me to our infusions. The ones that are going to stand out to me the most are going to be Mind Sharpener, because again, we're a concentration caster, as well as Enhanced Defense. We're focusing on getting people to attack us, so us having an incredibly high AC is very important, and we managed to do that. Between Enhanced Defense, Heavy Armor, and a Shield, we have a maximum amount of AC of 21 at this level, although we probably don't have plate, admittedly. Our primary strategy at this level differs based on who we're fighting. Let's say we're fighting a melee enemy. We're going to run up to them, we're going to attack with Booming Blade. This is going to proc Thunder Gauntlets as well as Booming Blade. We're then going to use our bonus action Disengage to take a few steps back. Now we're leaving them with a choice. They can pursue us, thus procking Booming Blade, increasing our damage significantly, and then they attack us, which we're okay with because we have an incredibly high AC. Or they're going to move towards one of our allies, procking Booming Blade, then they're going to attack at disadvantage. So either way, we're really doing damage and tanking for the team. How about against a ranged enemy? Well, we're going to move up right next to them, and we're going to attack them with Booming Blade, same as always, but we're not going to disengage, we're going to stay right there. Now they can either attack us at disadvantage or our allies at disadvantage, or they can try and retreat, taking an opportunity attack and proccing Booming Blade. So our turn in, turn out skills are going to be really high, even only at 3rd level. At 4th level, we're going to move over to Cleric. Once we take our first level of Cleric, there is some interesting nuance that happens here. Blessing of the Forge allows us to make a weapon a +1 magical weapon, or our armor +1 magical armor, but it can't target something that already is magical. So there's kind of a debate whether or not you can use it on your armor because it is potentially magical. However, there's some cool things we could do. There's ways to mix and match this that could really benefit us. One is to take the Enhanced Offense infusion instead of, say, Mind Sharpener. What this allows us to do is it makes this easier to hit our enemies so that we proc our debuff more consistently. Then we would put that +1 armor on our actual armor is separate from the gauntlets, and then we have a +1 to our AC, so we're still at that 21, and we have +1 to our weapon. If they need to be separated, you can take Mind Sharpener because it's completely separate from the armor. You can then put Enhanced Defense on your shield, and then have Blessing of the Forge on your armor, because it'll be the only thing affecting your armor. Then you're going to have a +2 AC, and you're going to have your advantages on your Constitution saves. Of course, we come with Cleric's 1st level spells, which are a mixture of great support in things like Healing Word and Bless, and then with significant damage output for the level and Inflict Wounds in Guiding Bolt. As we move into 2nd level spells, Spiritual Weapon stands out as it always does for a Cleric, and it gives us an alternative to use instead of a bonus action Disengage, which we're not going to always want to use. So Spiritual Weapon can increase our damage output very consistently. AC. Once we hit level 4, we're going to want to boost our wisdom score. Now you could choose intelligence if you want to be more focused on being a debuffer and kind of more of a melee combatant, but the way we're doing our leveling structure, extra attack isn't coming until much later, so I'm far happier just taking wisdom here. It also rounds out our wisdom save because we're not going to have proficiency there, and whether you choose wisdom or intelligence, both of those stats have fantastic half feats, so taking an odd number when you first begin this character pays off here because you can both round out a stat and get something like Misty Step and Silvery Barbs if you took something like Fey Touched, which really does just boost this character that extra notch. At Cleric 5, we get the almighty Spirit Guardians. Spirit Guardians tanks our normal playstyle that I've already described, the Booming Blade and Retreat or the Booming Blade and Stay There, and takes it to 10. Because now since they have Spirit Guardians on them, their speed is halved, so their optionality of what they can do is essentially halved. They can move towards us and attack us, but now they've resigned themselves to being stuck in Spirit Guardians for another turn, taking that much more damage. Or they can attempt to retreat from us, but because their movement is halved, we can move towards them easily. There is no escaping Spirit Guardians if you don't have some teleportation. This is where all of our investments we put into concentration really start to shine. We have our proficiency, we have a decent constitution, we have high AC, and we have Mind Sharpener. We are very rarely going to be losing concentration at all. This is going to be a very consistent Spirit Guardians. Now I'm going to be taking that next level into Forge Domain Cleric because it's going to give us another +1 to our AC as well as resistance to fire damage. This is going to take our AC potentially into the stratosphere, potentially 23, which is just a ridiculous amount of AC. This is a quick little side note, but how I measure AC is each new point is more valuable than the last points. So going from 22 to 23 is better than going from 14 to 15. There's very few builds that are taking 22 to 23, so that's a very valuable point of AC, and it's going to make a ton of people miss you all the time. Now, because clerics kind of plateau at these levels, I've decided to move back into Artificer to get the amazing Mind Sharpener, to get the spell storing item as we move into those later levels. The thing about Spirit Guardians is, yes, upcasting it does more damage, and it's good damage. However, the main draw to Spirit Guardians is its debuffs and its effect and its AoE nature. And we get to keep those just with those 3rd level spells, so I'm happy to go into Artificer to round out our abilities instead of our spells. As for our ASIs in the future, I'm definitely going to max out Wisdom, then I'm going to consider going into Intelligence and or Constitution and or picking up whatever feats sound fun to me. Wisdom really is the key to this build though. So what we end up with here is an AC tank. It's someone that allows us to protect our teammates via debuffs and just the fact that we can take hits for days and we stall enemies' movement. Spirit Guardians is really an underrated tanking feature because it makes it difficult for the enemies to retreat or to pursue our allies. Think about how hard it'd be to chase down a wizard as a warrior if you're stuck in Spirit Guardians and have half speed. A wizard's gonna run circles around you. So combining the Armorer Artificer and the Forge Domain Cleric, we really take Spirit Guardians to the stratosphere and they kind of complement each other. We make Booming Blade better, we make Spirit Guardians better, and we make our Thunder Gauntlets debuff better by mixing them all together, making a really solid central tank. Not only is our AC absolutely fantastic, but we've really done a lot to make our saves fantastic as well. We have Absorb elements to round out our Dexterity save weakness, which is our primary weakness. We then have our Constitution saves, which we've invested so much in, it's absolutely ridiculous. And then because we've focused on boosting our Wisdom up as much as possible, our Wisdom saves are also solid. And that's my take on the Forge Armorer Artificer, but let me know what you guys would do given the same idea. Also, I'd love to hear some build challenges from you guys. Let me know in the comments down below. And thank you so much, Mason, for this challenge. It was a ton of fun, and if you guys want to leave us a challenge, let me know in the comments down below, and we might just do a video around it. Alright, my friends, with that, I hope you have yourselves an incredible day, and I'll catch you on the next one. See you then.